Hello everybody and welcome back to another Easter eggs episode. And today we're really going to do the map Atlantic. But before I get started, first many thanks to Zbriu, Broja Jakra, and Bjorn for submitting some interesting tidbits of information that I'll be using in this episode. So first of all, this is a submission from Zbriu, and this is the Pena National Palace, which is located on top of a hill above the town of Sintra. And on clear days, this can be seen from the Portuguese capital of Lisbon. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the 7 wonders of Portugal. Used today for state occasions by the President of Portugal and other government officials, it is also a national monument, and at one point this served as a summer residence for the Portuguese royal family. Prior to being a palace, this location was a monastery, but it was heavily damaged during the Great Lisbon earthquake of 1755. This is what she looks like today. Eventually, it was acquired by the King Consort Ferdinand II and rebuilt into this palace. The last Queen of Portugal actually spent her last night at the palace before leaving the country in exile. The palace is now one of Portugal's most visited monuments. The colors on it did actually fade at one point in time, so that the entire structure was actually gray. But by the end of the 20th century, they had fully repainted to the original colors, and it is this beautiful looking structure today. Next up is another location pointed out to me by Zbriu, and this is on the D6 grid on Atlantic, and the English name of this place is the Castle of St. George, and if I was to attempt to pronounce it in Portuguese, it's the Castelo de São Jorge. Okay, maybe that sounds like Spanish rather than Portuguese. I don't speak any of those languages, go away. Anyways, St. George's Castle can be seen from pretty much anywhere in Lisbon. The oldest parts of this castle date back all the way to the 6th century when it was occupied by the Romans. Eventually, it was occupied by the Moors, and it served as the Moorish royal residence until Portugal's first king, Alfonso Henrique, captured it in 1147 during the Second Crusade, and that was actually one of the few successes of the Second Crusade. The castle would be used in the defense of Lisbon and would also serve for a while as the royal palace. And this is a picture of the castle today, and supposedly if you were to go there and you were to go to this castle, it would provide you a pretty nice view of the city of Lisbon. So that's something you could do if you ever decide to visit Lisbon in Portugal. The last remaining major sort of structural thing on Atlantic was pointed out by Bjorn on the B6 grid, and it's this airbase. There's no real sort of identifying mark about what airbase this is. On the 2 hangars, it says U.S. Naval Air Base. And my sort of thought process with that is Portuguese related to U.S. Military Air Base. Might be Lajes Air Base in the Azores, but I think this is one we're not going to get a definite answer for. Moving on to the smaller items, and we come across this white sailing ship on the D6 grid, and this is just a little bit below St. George's Castle, and this is the sailing ship Carnegie. It was spotted by Zbriu and Bjorn, and this ship had a very, very cool history. See, a long time ago, the effect of the Earth's magnetic field on a compass wasn't really well understood. And so there were a lot of navigation errors, and ships kind of ended up in places they didn't want to end up, and plotting a map went all wrong as well. And this ship was basically built to go and investigate these things. And for 20 years, this wooden-hulled ship sailed the oceans, including the Arctic and the Antarctic, and really sort of measured a lot of the unknown influences of Earth's magnetic field on things. And a lot of what we know today can be attributed to this awesome ship. Next up, we have 2 other ships found on the F4 grid on Atlantic. First up is Starlight, and this was spotted by Bjorn. And Starlight is a puffer Starlight build. It was built by the Ferguson brothers in Glasgow, Scotland. She was basically built to move cargo around Scotland because at the time there were very, very few roads, and roads were also incredibly expensive to build. And the ones that did exist often had a lot of detours, so it was just easier to build ships, put cargo in ships, and move cargo around. And then there is this little tugboat spotted by both Bjorn and Broja, and this is TID 50. These tugboats, as a class, were built during World War II when the British had a desperate need for tugboats and small craft to work in the harbors. Now, at the time, British shipbuilding didn't really have a lot of capacity to be building tugboats, so what they ended up doing was finding other manufacturers, for example, of rail cars, who had spare welding capacity and gave them a rather simple design to build. And these tugboats were basically completed very, very quickly. Eventually, one every 5 days was made with the term tugboat a week, and 182 of them in total were built. And here is a historical picture, as well as an old picture of the Starlight when she was still in service. Moving on, and on the G4 grid, you will find this interesting looking boat, and on it there's a little descriptor, and it's called, if you read the words, and my Italian's terrible by the way, but I'll try it, it's a trabacolo da trasporto, and it's basically a kind of sailing ship that was used in and around Italy in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, and their job was basically to haul cargo. The really, really cool thing about these ships is that at that time they tend to carry cannons because they were prey for both pirates and privateers, but also naval vessels would capture these as prizes. So during the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, the Royal Navy ships would actually go around Italy capturing these. So they needed cannons for self-defense. The particular one that we see in game is actually a real ship that currently exists at the, oh, and I'm going to try this one. It's at the Naval Museum of Cesenatico. Okay, I'm hoping I got that right. And it's a fully restored ship that's there that you can go check out. And during the summer, it participates in sailing events around that area. So that's a pretty cool little thing. Hiding in the corner of the D6 grid's harbor is this seemingly not so special little boat. Now look closely and you see the words 7 bells on it. Interesting little ship, looked her up, and she was initially a private yacht, and then during World War II, she served as an anti-submarine net tender in San Francisco Bay. She was then reclaimed and fully restored twice, once in 1947 and once again in 1999. Cool little thing is this particular boat actually has its own poem written in 2002, and it goes something like this. 1 bell, wild cacophony of sound, onus of duty, earthbound. 2 bells, 3, strident voices making demands, clanging noises, begging hands. 4 bells, 5 bells, 6, life is real, hurry, scurry, life is earnest, flurry, worry. But 7 bells, lines loosed, engines thrum, tide chuckles against the bow. Come, oh, come away with me now, succumb with me to the magical mystery of 7 bells. The last boat I could find on the Atlantic map is found on the B6 grid, and this is right next to the naval air base that I was talking about earlier, and it's this U.S. Navy tugboat, I think, and the main identifying feature seems to be that number 710. Looked for it, and, well, I found it. It's the YTL 710 tugboat, and here's a picture of her next to the USS Barry in the Washington Naval Yard in 1984. These were initially, I guess, built as harbor tugs, but then there's a lot of sort of messed up designations, and there were like hundreds of these little tugboats. The YTLs were basically the little ones. They had engines under 400 horsepower, and then there were the ones that were like YTMs, which were medium tugboats, which engines above 400 horsepower but less than 800, and then you had like YTBs, which were big tugboats, which had engines greater than 800 horsepower. But really, there's not too much information about these. The 710, there wasn't too much even about when she was commissioned or decommissioned. So if you want more information, you can just type in these YT tugboats and see what you can find. The actual airfield itself actually has lots of little things. For example, you'll see these, what appears to be B-24 Liberator bombers. Although, as this is a U.S. naval airbase, my guess is those are probably PB-4Y1s, and those would actually be long-range anti-submarine aircraft that were operated by the U.S. Navy in the Atlantic theater to hunt for U-boats. That's my guess. Aside from that, you also have a whole bunch of these M45 quad mounts. So these are 450 caliber M2 Browning machine guns that serves as an anti-air gun. There you see 4 of them in a group. Moving on to what appears to be an aircraft servicing area, and you will see, I believe these are Hellcats. Could be Wildcats. Now, I think these are Hellcats. That's my guess. From the way they look, these look like F6F Hellcats. And then, of course, along with those Hellcats are these Avenger torpedo bombers. At the same airbase, there are actually three of these North American T6 Texan trainers that are sitting near this building. And that pretty much does it for, I believe, everything on the Atlantic map. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. It's been fantastically fun trying to find all these little things to show you. Of course, if you have an Easter egg that you found, please do send me an email. The instructions for doing all that are in the video description below. Anyhow, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again soon.